Okay, and in this session we are going to be talking about the planets. The agenda, the planets, and then we also mentioned the South Node and Chiron. Ptolemy, quote, "The stars incline, they do not compel." So this really is a reminder that astrology doesn't guarantee. It doesn't guarantee anything. Just because you have Mars in Scorpio doesn't guarantee you will have bowel inflammation. Astrology shows constitution, proclivities, but it doesn't guarantee anything. So the planets govern different aspects of health and impart certain energies into the sign that they are in. They are the pathological action within the body part. For example, Mars rules inflammation, the immune response, and is activating hot and dry. So that they are the pathological actions that Mars will impart into an area of the body. And a reminder that we say, or I say, and a lot of astrologers will say planets, but let's be clear, the sun is a star and it's considered a luminary because it is luminous and it emits light. The moon is a type of moon and it is also a luminary because it reflects the sun's light, so it puts out a light. And then we have the North and South Node, which I'll explain a little bit later. It's not something you have to worry about too much in this beginner's intro course, but the nodes, for example, even though we refer to them as planets, they're mathematical points in space that mark where the moon's orbit crosses the ecliptic, which is the sun's path across the sky. So that's just a mathematical point in the sky, the North and South Node, but we call them planets, just to be very broad. And we refer to asteroids such as Chiron, and they're not planets either. So I will say planets to be broad, but just to be clear, a lot of these celestial bodies are not actually planets. Let's start with the sun, the center of the solar system. Its nature is hot or warm and dry. I have put hot and dry. It is hot, but Mars is hotter. Whereas the sun is like a nice hot, Mars will burn you like lava. But we'll just say hot and dry to keep it simple. Its qualities: fortifying, tonifying, radiant, masculine. It's yang. It represents life force, the quality of the incarnate spirit. We refer to it often as the life battery, because the sun is at the center of the solar system. It keeps all the planets going round, and it kind of is the same in astrology. The sun is really important, and that's why everyone refers to their star sign or their sun sign so often. Its placement in our birth chart tells us how the sun's energy manifests and flows through us. Just as the sun sustains life on Earth, our astrological sun sustains our individual being. Its position in the chart reveals the strength and quality of our life force, indicating how effectively we channel and harness this energy during our physical existence, how our spirit manifests physically in this world. So common health associations or pathological actions of the sun. So if your sun is well placed, and we will discuss how to identify a well placed planet or a poorly placed, or rather a planet that's at detriment. A well placed sun will often indicate robust health, vigor, and high vitality. Challenging placements and aspects may suggest tendencies towards exhaustion, burnout, or chronic fatigue. The sun's condition can reflect the state of heart health and blood pressure. Strongly connected to self-esteem and confidence. Challenging aspects or placements may correlate with lower self-esteem or lack of self-confidence. The moon. Her nature is cold, or perhaps we should say cool. She's not icy, but she's cool and moist. Qualities: nutritive, absorptive, receptive, feminine, and yin. The moon is cool and moist. It represents the body's absorptive qualities. It governs digestion, nutrition, and all fluid-containing organs. It influences emotional states, instinctual responses. It governs female functions such as lactation and fertility. Additionally, it reflects the rhythmic cycles and fluctuations of the body. It governs white fluids like lymph and mucus, partial rulership of female hormones, because Venus is also involved in that, and then I guess you could say to an extent Mercury, but we'll get into that. So it has partial rulership of female hormones, rulership of ovulation and the breasts. So common health associations or pathological actions of the moon. A well-placed moon makes a person receptive, intuitive, able to digest food and life's experiences. It speaks of the energy of the mother imparted upon the child. And difficult placement of the moon can bring hormonal disruptions, menstrual difficulties, emotional disruptions or issues, emotional rather than mental, digestive issues, especially the stomach, fluid congestion of any sort of fluid buildup, such as cysts or blisters. There was something I was going to say about the moon to you. The moon is quite often a key indicator of health issues, especially things where there's an emotional driver to it, but we'll get more into that later. Mercury, cold and dry qualities, neural, fast, nervous, and androgynous. Mercury governs the function of the nerves. You think Mercury, think of the nerves and the nervous system, along with Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Uranus. Mercury was the messenger of the gods. The role of Mercury is transmission of messages, so that's where that nervous system rulership comes in. All senses of perception and communication come under the rulership, such as speech, hearing, eyes, ears, vocal cords, tongue, and hands. So anything that helps you communicate or functions for the communication. Some of these are co-ruled by other signs. So for example, actually no example, just roll with that. So due to its ruling sign Gemini, Mercury does have some rulership over the lungs and respiratory system. It can play a role in allergies alongside the Moon and Neptune. It also reflects the mental health to a degree of someone through its rulership of reasoning and logic. Common health associations or pathological actions that Mercury can impart. A well-placed Mercury brings a quick and acute mental faculty with a well-functioning nervous system, but a challenged Mercury may cause nerve issues such as neuralgia, nerve pains, depending on where it's located, issues of communication, respiratory challenges like lung and bronchial issues, issues of the hands, arms, headache, dizziness, hearing issues, deafness, and anxiety. Now, there is a handout just as I'm going along at the end of this module where I've created a table with each planet and the pathological actions. So whilst having this session, this what do you call it, PowerPoint printed out is helpful, I've also made it into a chart, which is really, really useful. Venus for nature is neutral. So she becomes what you need. She's not hot, she's not cold, she's not dry, she's not moist. She's neutral. But some might say neutral, perhaps a bit moist. It kind of depends who you ask, so I put both in here. Her qualities are relaxing, softening, nutritive, and feminine. Venus rules over the 5 senses, so she's concerned with sensation, beauty, and balance, or homeostasis. She has rulership over female genitals and female hormones and has an affinity to ovulation with the moon. All pink parts of the body, so lips, female genitals, mucous membranes, are under her rulership. She governs the kidneys, bladders, and ureters. kidneys, bladder, and ureters. She desires balance, so kidney function and maintaining acid-alkaline balance is very Venusian. Also, the purity and cleansing of the blood is under her rulership. As the planet of Taurus, she also has partial rulership over the voice and thyroid and its hormones. She is associated with sugar, so quite often there are issues of sugar there. Her ruling element is copper. So her pathological action, when well placed or aspected, Venus brings ease, balance, beauty. She's soft, sweet, and can soothe pain. However, a challenged Venus can cause issues from overindulgence, especially in sugars, atonicity, soft muscular tone, fluid accumulation, cysts, swelling, thyroid issues, throat issues like tonsillitis, issues of blood purity or alkalinity through association with the kidneys under Libra, high blood sugar or blood sugar dysregulation, candida overgrowth because candida fungus feeds on sugars. However, most issues caused by Venus are usually easier to overcome. So you see Venus, like the energy of Venus, it loves beauty, decadence, things that feel good, that taste good, that look good, anything that is like a sensual pleasure. That's what she is about. But you know, too much of that makes you just like lazy, flabby, and kind of useless. Okay, Mars. Mars is so important when we look at medical astrology. You'll see like Mars is inflammatory. Its nature is hot and dry, and so you can see in the picture there I've got like a desert. It kind of looks like Mars. Its qualities: acute, aggressive, inflammatory, excessive, masculine. So think of like a raging warlord. It's aggressive, it wants to cause damage, it wants to fight, it wants to, you know, just be really aggressive. So that is the nature of Mars, and that's how Mars can act in the body. So it's a planet of action and energy. It primarily rules the muscular system whilst commanding the production and flow of red blood cells in arterial circulation. So Mars is the red planet. We think of inflammation. Inflammation is red. What else is red? Blood. So they all kind of go together with Mars. Its influence extends to the adrenal glands and their hormonal secretions, particularly affecting male hormones, sexual drive, and reproductive function. So where Venus does have a little bit more of an affinity for females, even though it does affect males, Mars has a little bit of an affinity for male because it's such a masculine planet, even though it does affect females. This warrior planet also plays a crucial role in protective mechanisms, co-ruling the immune system, and inflammatory responses. Mars's affinity for red systems is evident in its dominion over muscles, blood, and iron metabolism. So what I was saying before, while its aggressive nature is reflected in its rulership over surgical procedures and acute medical interventions, rules the element iron. So pathological action of Mars. A well-placed Mars will indicate athleticism, passion, drive. It represents the phallus and masculine energy. But a challenged Mars brings inflammation. Inflammation is the core energy of Mars, and it can cause sudden, sharp, acute, aggressive, and hot ailments that develop quickly. Thinking fevers, infections, burns, injury, violent injury, stings, bites, sporting injuries. Mars's association with red also indicates blood, bleeding, issues of the blood, anemia, or hemochromatosis, nosebleeds, hemorrhages, shingles, herpes, or just excess heat in a person or in that part of a person's body. Jupiter. You see I've got a picture of Santa Claus there because I feel like Santa Claus really embodies Jupiterian nature quite a lot. Jupiter is warm and moist. Its qualities are expansive, abundant, nourishing, sometimes lazy. Represents jolly Jupiter rules over the fats and lipids of the body and associated organs and functions such as fat and carb storage, cholesterol, manufacture of bile, fat and adipose tissue, on the body, the liver and liver detoxification functions. Additionally, energy-related functions such as production of glucagon and insulin by the pancreas and blood sugar levels along with Venus, and general growth and expansion. So pathological actions of Jupiter. So a well-placed Jupiter brings good fortune, abundance, and expansion. Like Venus, Venus and Jupiter are our two benefic planets. They tend to be less terrible in their action. They can cause problems, but you know, they're benefic, so they're generally good. However, benefic Jupiter can cause health issues through its tendency towards excess and growth. Issues arise such as benign, usually benign, tumors or cysts, especially with an aspect to the moon. Fat accumulation, high blood pressure, gout, liver issues, congestion of the blood, which is a liver issue, sciatica, obesity, and many health issues related to excess consumption. So Jupiter and Venus, we saw that they are generally quite a good, have quite a good energy, but they are both prone to a little bit of laziness and excess, which can be the downfall. Saturn. Saturn is actually cold, not cool, but cold and dry. Its qualities are astringent, crystallizing, binding, slowing, chronic, restricting, stiffening, undernourishes, and brings toxic buildup. So you can see Saturn is already like a very challenging planet. Saturn rules over the structures of our body that hold us together, are hardier, bring form and shape, such as our bones, skeleton, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, hair, skin. So everything that forms a boundary between the inner and outer world. Nails and teeth. The parathyroid gland, as it governs calcium homeostasis. And calcium, you know, helps form our bones, and bones form structure. The knees in particular, and the aging process. There's a lot of mythology about Saturn, which is really interesting and worth reading if you like mythology, and it explains the Saturnian energy of it. Common health associations or pathological actions of Saturn. So a well-placed Saturn can be a little bit less pathological in action and can bring strength to structures, good discipline, and boundaries. For most people, a lot of the time, Saturn is the best and first place to look to establish the seat of ongoing disease or restricted function, especially because we're talking about birth charts. Saturn will not always be causing a problem, but in a birth chart, Saturn is where something will be slower or under functioning. And whether that results in a problem, it may or may not, but that's where you look for the slowest, like the area where there's probably the slowest function. Chronic illness, issues of Saturn are often chronic, slow to develop, difficult to resolve, long-standing. Saturn brings restriction to whatever body area he is in. Osteoporosis, bone issues, for example, are really common Saturnian issues. Melancholic, depressive mood, rheumatic issues, gout, arthritis, paralysis, skin issues, malnutrition, wasting, atrophy, constipation, any type of crystallization, so kidney calculi, stones and gravel, so any sort of crystallization within the body, build up. Sterility, so further elaboration on Saturn in following lectures as his placement is so important. Yeah, so we will talk about Saturn a bit more. Uranus, so now we're getting into the modern planets. So I've got a handout at the end of this module, but what we've just gone through are the traditional planets. These were the planets that we've been able to see for thousands of years with the naked eye in the sky. The modern planets have only been seen for the last 100 and something years through telescopes. So traditionally, these modern planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, were never included in astrology. However, a lot of modern astrologers will include them now, and I include them. So, and I think it enhances the reading, it brings more depth. They have their own nuanced energy, but just know that these last 3 planets are modern. They are not traditional. But Uranus, cold and dry, electrical, spasmodic, erratic, involuntary, extreme. There's something about Uranus that can be a little bit hard to pin down. Represents the energetics of the body and the electrical pulsations of the nervous system. So remember, Mercury rules the electrical flow or transmission of messages. Uranus rules the pulsations. So messages, like the transmission is, it flows through, but the pulsation is, I hope that makes sense. How the energy pulses, is it regular or is it erratic as it comes through the electrical system? The way the spirit resides within the material body is another thing that I've heard linked with Uranus, which is really interesting. Like, does it reside comfortably or uncomfortably? Does the spirit reside uncomfortably or comfortably within the human body? Uranus controls the autonomic involuntary parts of the nervous system. It affects the mind with its electrical impulses, the motor nerves, meridian systems, chakras, ATP, energy creation, rhythmic cycles. I think I forgot to write in here mitochondria, circulation through arteries and veins, and the hypothalamus, which regulates unconscious internal functions. So that's that autonomic nervous system connection there. So everything that's driven by like a little bit of electricity in the body, it has like a Uranian connection. So not just Mercury, but Uranus as well. Common health associations or pathological actions, I forgot to write in there. A well-placed Uranus can indicate scientific and spiritual genius, eccentricity, quirkiness, and it can create a really good athlete when they can learn how to channel their energy surges. However, he most often throws off balance and disturbs normal rhythms. Uranus brings electrical and electromagnetic frequency or EMF sensitivity, unusual and undiagnosable issues caused by electrical currents. Arrhythmias can induce chronic fatigue, mitochondrial dysfunction, spasmodic issues, thyroid issues, mental health conditions, especially more extreme kinds, and any type of imbalance, extreme response, or oddity. Uranus is like really odd in nature. Neptune, moist, and we're not sure if he's warm or cool, but I lean towards cool and not cold, if we can make that distinction. Qualities: diffusive, draining, nebulous, leaky, weakening, dissolving, hypnotic, and deceptive. Neptune does have some redeeming qualities in regular astrology, but in terms of health, tricky planet. Neptune rules over the psychic world, pineal gland, circadian rhythm, sleep, dopamine, melatonin, intuition, intoxicants, drugs, and poisons. So anything that's deceptive to the body, such as anesthetics, painkillers, caffeine, tobacco, marijuana, alcohol, hallucinogens, opiates, things like kava, poppy. It rules over osmosis, movement of fluids and gases within the body, the lymphatic system, spinal fluid, the immune system. Anything that's really hard to diagnose is very Neptunian because it's elusive and nebulous. Issues of permeability or lack of physical or psychic boundaries. So you see Neptune has this, like it says, like a diffusive quality where it doesn't have a solid boundary, which can be beautiful if you want to be psychic and speak to the, angels, whatever. But it's really not good for the body because the body needs a definite inside-outside, inside the, digestive system, outside the digestive system. We need boundaries within the body. So Neptune causes issues with boundaries. Common health associations and pathological actions. So a well-placed Neptune can denote spiritual gifts and psychic abilities and a magnetic nature. So that, that is the gift of Neptune, very psychic, very spiritual. When you think of Jesus. He's very Neptunian. He's an icon. He's very spiritual, like there's very Neptunian nature to that. However, in the body, a challenged Neptune's magnetism brings psychic attack, electromagnetic fatigue, so it makes you easy to drain energy from, fatigue, issues of poisoning, toxicity, allergies, parasitic infection, fungal infection, viral infection, where the immune system is compromised, therefore we have poor boundaries, mental health issues, neurosis, anxiety, hallucinations. I say hallucinations because I personally think a lot of hallucinations are just actually a breakdown of boundaries between this world and the next. Psychosis, addiction, substance abuse, because Neptune quite enjoys escapism into the spiritual realm. Poor energy, lymphatic congestion or fluid retention. So that's because it's the planet ruling Pisces. So there is that lymphatic connection of the body's fluids. Often difficult to diagnose and elusive health issues. So Uranus had erratic health issues, peculiar and odd, but erratic, whereas Neptunes are like elusive and hard to diagnose. It's like, trying to nail jelly to a tree. That's kind of the nature of Neptune. And Pluto. Nature, extreme. In one word, it can be extremely hot or extremely cold. Qualities, transformative, cathartic, regenerative, destructive. Pluto is a little bit scary, but can bring a lot of amazing growth. So Pluto represents survival, procreation, DNA, hereditary issues, deep subconscious desires, cellular division and cellular mutation, poisons and toxic substances, resistant bacteria, enzymes, nuclear waste, poisoning, radiation, parasites, plagues, mass deaths, extreme and drastic conditions, secondary sexual characteristics, libido, orgasms, sex hormones, sperm and egg. Judith Hill, the astrologer, says it's very closely linked to spiritual will. So I guess that's the difference. When Pluto is activated in our chart, or has some action, it's our spiritual will that determines, will it destroy us or will we transform from it. So pathological action of Pluto. At its best, it can bring drastic, life-changing, necessary changes to one's life, overcoming extreme illness, for example, where something hellish and extreme occurs, such as illness that is then overcome and brings evolution. That is how Pluto touches on deadly illness, survival, near death, and transformation. He calls for extreme personal will and extreme methods. At its worst, Pluto brings the darkest of health issues, cancers, death, plagues, pandemics, poisoning, and extreme illnesses. We're still learning about Pluto and how he manifests his energy. Just as I mentioned before, Judith Hill, astrologer extraordinaire, says he may not affect everyone physically, which is kind of good, I guess. And it's just, again, to remind you, especially with the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, we are still learning how it fits within the astrological framework and the rulerships. Like we've got a pretty good idea, but unlike the other traditional planets who had thousands of years to establish, and we can observe the energies and look at the patterns and cycles and stuff, the newer planets, we're still learning where they fit in, particularly in I'll just leave it there. We're just learning where it fits in. So the South Node, you can see next to the word the South Node, I drew the South Node. Kind of bad, I had to use my little stylus on my computer, but that's what it looks like. We do have a South Node and a North Node in our chart. However, for the sake of an introductory medical astrology birth chart reading course, let's just look at the South Node. A person's nodes are always 180 degrees away from each other. So they will always be, I'm trying to show you in the little bubble thing I'm in, doing terribly. They'll always be opposite. One South Node is often a place that represents deficiency of energy, kind of like Saturn and Neptune. It's a cosmic energy exit portal, a celestial rectum. It can indicate a weak spot, a chink in the armor, a leak, wherever it is located, perhaps even an energetic leak. So the South Node, it's where energy sort of exits. So that's why we're associating with a lessening of energy or an energetic leak. It's associated with parasites, infections, issues arising from dirty conditions, psychic issues triggered by hypnosis, black magic, occult ritual, spirit possession. Hereditary conditions can come from the South Node. And if you have an issue with the South Node, you can use the North Node as a hint as to how to remedy the South Node. I don't focus on the South Node heaps in this course, but I did want to share it with you. In case you're, going through your chart or someone's chart and you think, oh, I think it actually might be relevant. Maybe there's a lot of aspects to it. We'll talk about aspects soon. If you don't know what they're about, no problem. I just wanted to mention the South Node to you. Chiron. So when I, at the beginning, was talking about asteroids, Chiron, there are many asteroids, but Chiron is one that's particularly relevant in medical astrology, and especially in birth charts, so natal astrology. So in Greek mythology, Chiron was a unique centaur known for his wisdom, knowledge, and healing abilities. Unlike other centaurs who were often depicted as wild and unruly, Chiron was immortal, civilized, and highly educated. He served as a mentor to many Greek heroes, including Achilles, Jason, and Asclepius, teaching them medicine, music, prophecy, and hunting. After being accidentally wounded by Hercules with a poisoned arrow, Chiron could not heal himself, despite his vast medical knowledge, leading him to give up his immortality to free Prometheus in a deal he made with Zeus, thus embodying the archetype of the wounded healer. So that's quite often where you'll hear Chiron, the wounded healer, and there's more to it, but that's a very, very basic understanding of it. In astrology, Chiron represents our deepest wounds and the wisdom that comes from healing them. His placement in a birth chart indicates areas where we may experience profound hurt, but also where we have the greatest potential to help others heal. In medical astrology specifically, Chiron's position can indicate a physical or emotional vulnerabilities, but also points to where we might develop exceptional healing abilities. So it's closely associated with menopause, conception, pregnancy, birth, miscarriage, abortion. Consider it a sore spot that is triggered when poked or an unhealed wound. So when you look at Chiron in someone's chart, that's where they are wounded, that's where they have a sore spot. But if they can come to terms with the fact that's their sore spot, it can become a place of healing and wisdom, and they can use it to help others. So that's why Chiron's really important in medical astrology. Cool. So now we're at the end of that session. We've gone through all the planets, the luminaries, the asteroids, the South Node. I just have to reiterate, this takes time and study and constant re-referencing. I don't give you homework, but know that you'll go through this whole series of lectures, all these sessions we're doing, and you'll have a bigger understanding and you'll still be confused. That's okay, because it takes a while to get the hang of it. But just keep looking at all the reference material, look at the charts, re-listen to this, like whatever you need to do. So don't freak out if you're not able to get it right away. Otherwise, I will see you in the next session.